Welcome to the Porn Sacrifice channel, and what is a bit of an odd episode. I've doing this retrospectively. I was joyously talking at the start of the other one about how I was going to be sorting out the exhausts and downpipes and all of that sort of thing, and it hasn't really happened. So here's a little bit of that, and from excitement to disappointment. Don't worry, I'm going to whiz through it, but just sort of give you an idea. So this is basically going from the turbo down. Now this ends up in the middle of nowhere. A load of extra bits of pipe and whatnot. A 200 cell, I think it was 200 cell high flow cat. Original exhaust, well I say the original exhaust. So this, from here forward, this is the original headers which go up two lots of V-bands. So I had to buy one, so a smaller one which is going to go on the, and I think I'm going to cut this around there, and okay, so now the following day I cut up a bit yesterday evening for doing some practice welds, and it did not go well, and I was getting very frustrated, and I thought my previous inclinations would have been to try and power through, but actually, well, I can't give advice on how to weld. I can give advice on how to weld badly, which is, if you're new to all of this and things aren't going well, it's probably worth just walking away from it for a little while and then coming back afresh the following day. So I went through it a bit more scientifically in terms of addressing the settings and everything else. There were some slight tweaks there, but then also just getting everything clamped down. And apart from mysteriously in one spot where it just seemed to blow through for no apparent reason whatsoever, when I was putting the tacks in, everything else seemed to go reasonably well. So I feel like I'm set up not necessarily for success, but for to not fail, I think is probably the stage that I'm at the moment. So this has got off to a very bad start. Let's see. It's basically blown through almost every tack. Right, so I have gone and cleaned this up on this end, and I am going to have issues because that is the bit I was hoping would be nicely sized, and it's going all the way up to there. So there is a very, very slight one, I think probably even just a 1mm difference in the sizing. So what I'm going to try and do, I think, is just notch this all the way around and then just try and knock it in, get it welded on to the other side. Then I've got a similar issue where from the size that was, I've got the Right, I need to have a think about what I'm going to do here, because this is kind of working, but the silencer side is just absorbing all of the heat. It's not getting so that there's a puddle creating, and even the residual heat from that is then just melting away the new piece that's gone on, which obviously isn't going to work. So I now need to have a look and think whether I just go ahead and just order up all of the bits, because even with this it's just none of the sizing of any of this is quite right. And what I'm seeing here is, so there's the, here's the ring for the V-band. Oh, you can't see it on there because it's the wrong size one. But everything is just slightly different size, which I think is going to give me problems. So I need to go and have a think about what I want to do, because it's just ridiculous. I just wish things were a bit easier at times. But there we go. It's what happens when you try and put a car engine from one car into another car. So that had to be abandoned, and part of the reason there's been a gap was in amongst all the abandonment of doing that and not getting this out before. I've been away as well and monstering around in one of these. It's a Ford F350 and this is Iceland, which was just absolutely amazing, but obviously has led to mine not being around to be doing work on the car. So I've been back to it, and I had a day when I got back from Iceland, so I spent the time indoors and just trying to perfect the printing method for ABS plastic, which is slightly complicated, and here's my little setup inside and what happened with that. For a little bit of a change, we're just inside momentarily, and the contraption behind me whirring away is the Creality Ender 3 3D printer, which I sort of wrote about previously. What I have been doing here is just making up a whole bunch of these clips. These are the hose clips, so feed and return, and that's the canister hose. So these will just clip onto the factory points. When I say clip on, I've basically made these little plastic nut type things that go through and they just hold everything in place. I think I've printed enough. I did the design originally in what's called PLA, which is unfortunately, well, for the earth it's good, but for us it's not. It's biodegradable, so I wasn't convinced how hard wearing it would be. I've reprinted in ABS. Printing in ABS is a lot more difficult, so for anyone that's looking to do this or going on the ABS plastic, which is pretty much what stuff inside the car is made of, I've used a transparent glue stick to put on the glass bed, then run over that with some meths just on a tab, just slightly swirl it around and it will go nice and tacky, and that really then helps to keep everything flat, otherwise it has a tendency to warp. I think a couple of the original ones did as well. So the bed is at 90 degrees and the print head is at 240. The rigid ink, which is the ABS plastic I'm using, said to go to 230, but I found I needed to pop it up a bit. And then I've got the print speed right down at 35. This is the production version of the coolant flange that's going on the back of the engine, so I've done 100% infill on that. This will all mean stuff if you're into the printing bit. If you're not, you don't really worry about it. The box is heated itself, so perspex front and back for viewing, and then just some hardboard on the side, and I'll show you in a sec. But essentially I've got a just a traditional electric heater with a bit of tubing going into essentially a ducting port. You could just put a hole in the top, but I've got something that was made for my sort of portable air conditioner, so I've stuck that on there, which is just feeding hot air in. There's a black bit that's dangling down in the middle there. You probably can't see it. I think it's about there-ish. That's a temperature sensor, and there's this quite neat little box on top, and essentially what that does is when it gets to, I think, 51, 52, it turns the power off, so it just essentially switches that off with the mains. When it gets down to 48, it cuts it back in again. And obviously the inside's generating heat. It seems to be working quite well. So far I'm 87% through the print job. And again, if you're new to this, 87% through, and let me think, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to do some sums. I think we're up to probably 31 hours worth of printing, so this is not a fast process. That's just hit 50 degrees, and so it's cut out. The top one is the actual temperature, the bottom one's the target. Once that drops down again, you'll see that basically this will kick back in, but we're certainly not going to be sitting here waiting for that to happen. Here we go, that's the finished product. I'm showing you now because I'm probably going to sit in front of the TV and start pulling all the supports off. That one's already started falling apart, but yeah, that's hopefully going to do a good job. Right, and that's all now finished. So I've got all my clips done, which I need to go through. I do need to have a count up and just see where I am in terms of numbers. This, I don't know if you remember a while back, so there's a few iterations of this. This was the factory one that I got, that I've basically cut down and moved things around in, but what it didn't have was a T feed off of here to go to the heater matrix. So then I started playing around with just seeing what I could make using the 3D printer. This is printed out of PLA, which I think I've explained in the clip is biodegradable, so it's no good. And this is the bit that I've just been talking about, or which you've just seen the clip of me printing. So this is, let me show this properly. This is the coolant flange, so that goes on the back of the engine. There's an O-ring in there which I've had to dig out. I've already put the little metal pieces in that the bolts go through. What I'd ideally like to do is just try and get some metal rings just to sit inside there and there. And the other thing I have been doing was, this was fractured slightly when I was taking the just taking the supports out, which is a bit of a bugger. So what I have done is just been going around. I've got a brush and some acetone, and essentially what that does, I don't know if you've ever spilt acetone on plastic, it makes a right mess, but what it can be used for is just blending it back in together and helping to seal that up. So that's done, and obviously there's going to be a hose over that. So yes, so that needs to go on. What I have done is I just had a quick look at where it sits, and unfortunately where the previously cut and shut tube is, basically they're coming out, I think it's slightly like that, so I either need to extend this up to there, which might be the better option if I can find some pipe, or otherwise bring this back and then just get a hose that's the right size that will curve around. But as you can see there, hopefully they are a good fit, and that's a good fit for the hose that goes down to the water side as well. So that's reasonably good, not job done just yet, but at least everything fits and is sized as it should, and I've got plenty of room on there for the hose to go over and then be clamped down. So yeah, that's actually a pretty good job. So I've just kind of cobbled this together as in instalments just to keep the videos coming. It's a bit of a shame, obviously the exhaust hasn't worked out. I do need to measure up and just get some parts ordered because I've not had time to get that done yet. And then I've got obviously quite a few more little bits and pieces to be getting on with, but you know, with that, if I can get the exhaust done, then I need to look at just getting the intercooler piping sorted out, and then maybe even what's going to be happening with the electrics. So all pressing on, even though this was a bit of a duffer. So yeah, hopefully catch you when we're back on track a bit more. Cheers for watching. Bye now.